I know where Bruce is coming from. I know his deep roots are really deeply American, and I understand that. But at the end of the other side, I think the diversity of sports, or in our case, it's soccer. It's so huge.
Jürgen, from one former Tottenham player and legend to another former Tottenham legend and manager, Mauricio Pochettino, how do you think he's done with this U.S. men's national team so far, and what hurdles do you expect from him? Because you came in to U.S. soccer as someone who hadn't really understood maybe what you were getting into. What challenges do you think lie ahead of him, and how do you think he's done so far?
Well, it's a difficult learning curve, for Mauricio and his entire staff, because obviously the landscape in the United States is so different to anything you find in Europe, or what he would find in South America, in Argentinian background there. So what he's going through is just learning by day. Every day he gets more information. He gets more knowledge about his players. He gets more knowledge about how soccer really functions in this country, and he will take it all in, and then he will kind of focus. The closer we get to the World Cup, he will focus more and more on what is really important, and that's basically his relationship with all the players and his team, in order to create a very special energy and drive towards the World Cup. And he knows he has a special team. He knows he has players now. They are able to compete on the highest level because they play now for Champions League teams in Europe, which is unbelievable, really, where our players now are today. And but it is now kind of day by day learning and understanding the political landscape, the all the parts of that you guys know it inside out. There's so many different parts floating around in US soccer that it's in the beginning it's very difficult to comprehend, but once you get closer to a tournament, all that matters is his relationship with the players and with the people that work close to the national team, and then to give them the belief and give them the drive and all those little pieces then on knowledge that, and he has undoubtedly a lot of knowledge because he's a very successful coach. And the hope for all of us, to make it a very successful World Cup for the U.S. national team.
So, Jürgen, Bruce Arena, who followed you after your time with U.S. Soccer, just came out recently and mentioned that sometimes having a foreign coach of a national team doesn't typically work because potentially, as you mentioned, there's a cultural difference there. There's maybe a lack of understanding of how the players were developed very early on and how that impacts their mindset and mentality. And so you've been on both sides of this, I guess, is where I'm trying to go. You've coached the U.S. and South Korea as a foreign coach, but you also have coached Germany. So you've been on both sides of the debate. Where are you on this, having a foreign coach take over a national team?
Well, I think, there are a lot of little pieces you can discuss and go up and down, because the difference of all the players around, if it's now just the U.S. national team players and their backgrounds, and you're part of it, you guys, is huge. If you grow up in Connecticut, or you grow up in Southern California, or in Texas, or in the Northwest, it's all so different. So U.S. I mean, for me, when I had the opportunity to work with the team, it was for almost 6 years. I just learned every day because everyone is so different. And so is it obviously when you bring in then players from Europe. Now the players that play in Europe, and most of them now play in Europe, they bring in all their different experiences from Europe and say, okay, at AC Milan we do it this way, at Juventus Turin we do it that way, and this is what I learned maybe in Germany or whatever. So you as a manager, as a coach, you're going to be a sponge. You want to understand where Christian Pulisic is coming from and where Weston McKennie is coming from, and all their little issues and problems that they carry with them. Then you got to analyze, not you have to, but you're interested in seeing, what is their private life about, how, the families, and how does this work? For example, I learned so much from Christian Pulisic in terms of he wanted to go to the prom so badly when we were in camp for a game, and I didn't understand how can you bring that up. For me as a European, I never heard about that. And then my wife told me, no, this is a big deal in America. You better let him go. So I let him go, and I think he told that story a few times, and then he came back. I said, just be back for training in the morning, and so light training because we had the game in the evening. And I threw him into the game. It took 5 minutes. He scored a goal. So I know where Bruce is coming from. I know his deep roots are really deeply American, and I understand that. But at the end of the other side, I think, the diversity of sports, or in our case, it's soccer. It's so huge. You have, dual citizenship situations. You have, everyone has a different background. And that's not only the players, it's also the people that work with you. It could be your physiotherapist, that is more Mexican American. You have maybe a scout that is English. You maybe have, a doctor that comes in from Eastern medicine, or whatever you build your staff together. It's a global environment. And go ahead, Tony.
No, go ahead, Jürgen. Yeah.
No, in this landscape of soccer, because it's global, you just constantly learn. Like Mauricio Pochettino now is learning about the United States. He's learning about all the little pieces that float around, the educational system with your high school and college, and the scholarship system that drives the money behind the scene. And it took me years, really years. I'm now in the US since 27 years, but I'm still learning about it. I still try to understand why this person is doing this or saying that. But at the end of the day, you need to build an environment where everybody supports each other. And you need to have a feel for it. And Mauricio has that feel because he coached big clubs. He knows how the players think. He knows, what they suffer. He knows what they want. Obviously, things changed in the last 10, 15 years dramatically with social media and their lifestyle and it all, we got through COVID and all these things. But I think he's a good people person, Mauricio, and that's what really matters. If you talk about, for example, Jürgen Klopp as a manager, or now Luis Enrique, how he built this Paris Saint-Germain without the superstars, or even Simone Inzaghi, what he did. When you talk about these type of coaches, all of them are capable to enter in the mindset of the players. And this is really crucial. You got to understand how the people think, how they feel. And not everybody is on board with you. Don't get me wrong, because you deal with 25, 30 players. Maybe in the bigger picture, you have even more on your list. Like Mauricio has right now, a bigger list that goes through these players. So you will not reach all of them. You will not make happy all of them. It's impossible, because, you have to put people on the bench. Maybe you have to tell people that you're not a starter, and then, or you already have an enemy. and that is normal because it's driven by performance. It's driven by egos. It's driven by hierarchy, in your locker room, because we are male people, and we define ourselves in the group with hierarchy. I want to be better than my teammate. I want to be better, in my position. I want to be the best that I can be. And you got to manage that all. And you got to put kind of in the very front of that, you got to put up the team first, and hopefully all the players buy in. Hopefully, you as a manager, you hope that you have maybe 2, 3, 4 verbal leaders in your locker room that drive the energy, that drive the positivity, that drive the belief that you can actually do it when you go into a tournament. And the tournament that we face now next summer has never been there before in this magnitude. 48 teams, 5.5 weeks of tournament. That means you go 3 weeks before that, still in the preparation for it. So it's gonna be a marathon. And I'm not saying that the physical side, I think everybody will be prepared. They're fine, because you badly want to play a World Cup. But the mental side of things will be decisive because, are they able to keep the spirit up for 5.5 weeks in the camp? Are they able to keep the camaraderie up? There will be maybe some fights in the locker room, some fights on the training field. And if something there happens that you can, as a manager, you cannot control because, it's so many people, you have about 50, 60, 70 people to take care of. the 23 players and all the staff people, which the staff's nowadays getting bigger and bigger with. You have now data analysts, you have specialists in the medical field, you have the media department, you have the social media people. And so I think Inter Milan now, as my buddies told me, they travel with 75 people to away games. That's 3 buses.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and you as a manager, you have the job to make sure that everybody's in a good mood, everybody is positive, everybody is driven. And sometimes it's not doable because, not everybody is in a good mood every day. We all have our bad days. And so I wish for Mauricio that he just take it one day at a time, figure out, how this team functions, talk to the player a lot, take their opinion in, which he does. He's so long in the business, and but I understand where Bruce comes from, and therefore, it's now up to Mauricio how he creates his environment.
I know you're sad. We've come to the end of the video. But if you want more average to good content from your favorite former U.S. men's national team players, this is the channel to make it happen. Go look at our other videos. Go look at our playlists. And if you want more of the content, the best way to make that happen is to hit like, hit subscribe, and then turn on all of your notifications so that you do not miss anything that we drop or when we go live or whatever it may be. We appreciate you. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.